What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the 3 golden rules you want to use every time you practice piano. Please always follow these rules. Without following these, none of the other strategies in the book are going to work at all. But if you do follow these, you're going to get the most out of each strategy and the most out of each practice session you have. All right, let's go on to them. All right, rule number 1 is accuracy over speed, meaning you always want to hit the right notes, even if you have to slow down the tempo to a point where you're able to do so. Now, the reason you want to do this all the time is based on muscle memory. And if you don't know what muscle memory is, it's basically the memory your fingers have when they just seem to kind of snap to the right notes. And you guys know what I'm talking about when you're playing through a song and it seems like your hands just know it, even if you might not even feel like you mentally know it, but your hands still remember the song. And how muscle memory works is the more you do a motion, the more you remember that motion in your hands. So if you're playing the wrong notes, your fingers will remember the wrong notes and think they're the right notes when you play them, in a performance or something. So that's why it's super important to always drill in those right notes. Otherwise, you're literally learning the song wrong. Now, there's 3 common times when people don't practice with accuracy. And the first one is at the end of the practice session. You just practiced the song for a long time. You learned it a little better than you knew it yesterday, and you're kind of tired, but you're excited because you learned a new song. So you try to play it super fast from beginning to end. I used to do this all the time, and it's one of the worst things you can do, because when you play it super fast beginning to end, you're going to make a ton of mistakes because you're playing it faster than you're able to. And I know it sounds cool and it's kind of fun, but at the end of the day, you're going to wake up the next morning and it's going to be sloppy because that last time you drilled it in with the wrong notes. So your brain is going to remember those notes the next day when you wake up and try to practice. So always at the end of the practice session, if anything, run through the whole song slowly and make sure you hit all the right notes. Now, the second main time people play without accuracy is when there's a lack of focus. And there's 2 things that cause lack of focus. The first big one is distractions. So take your phone, turn it off. Or even better yet, put it in your room, put it far away from the piano. If you have a TV in the room, turn off the TV or even move it to a different room. If you have siblings or people around you, tell them when you're practicing you don't want to be bothered, you want to be focusing only on practicing. That is huge for creating an efficient practice session, is having no distractions around. And the second thing, when people lose focus, is because they start getting mentally tired. Now, your brain is like a muscle. It can only handle so much mental energy at once. So if you've been practicing for 45 minutes and you start getting that brain fuzz where it's kind of hard to concentrate, it's kind of hard to focus, you start feeling kind of tired, you want to take a break. And everybody's kind of section that they're able to focus for is different. And usually it starts off small, so maybe when you start practicing, it might be like 20 minutes. But as you keep focusing for 20 minutes every day on practicing, now you realize you can go a little longer. Maybe you can practice 30 minutes without getting tired. And eventually you can kind of keep bumping that up. It's just like working out. The more you do it, the better you get at it. For me, I can go about 45 minutes to an hour, and then I start really feeling tired. And when you do that, take a break, go walk outside, go talk to some friends, do anything to get yourself away from the piano, and then when you come back to the piano, it's really easy to refocus and get back into your song. And the third common pitfall is playing with the wrong fingering. Now, you have to realize if you're playing with the wrong fingering, you're actually practicing it wrong. And that seems weird, but if you think about it, your fingers don't remember the notes, they just remember the movements and the shape of the hand and the shape of the fingers. So if you're playing with the wrong fingering, even if you're playing with the right notes, once you speed that up to a fast tempo, you might not be able to play it. It might work at a slow tempo, but that same fingering might not work at a fast tempo. So you want to write in the fingering right away, write in the correct fingering, and then always use that fingering. Now, obviously, you're not going to know necessarily what's the right fingering. If you have a teacher, you can ask them, they can help you out a lot. But even if it's printed in the score, sometimes they choose a fingering that's good for their hands. But if you have smaller hands, if you have kind of different coordination or different things that are easier for you, that fingering might not be the best fingering for you. But the important thing is you take a fingering and you always use that same fingering when you're practicing it. And then if it ends up being the wrong fingering, then you have to go back and switch it, and it's going to be a little more work. But you want to always make sure you use the same fingering. That way, when you're drilling it in, you're drilling in one fingering to your muscle memory and not confusing your fingers with multiple different fingerings. All right, on to rule number 2, which is practice hands separate first. And a lot of people make the mistake of rushing into hands together, and they're not good enough at each hand separately that they can play hands together. So they make a lot of mistakes, and they ended up learning it wrong. Now, when you learn learn hands together, the easiest way is to have one hand completely on autopilot, meaning it's completely drilled into your muscle memory. You don't have to think about it at all. That way you can focus all your attention on the hand that isn't drilled in. So take the hand, usually whichever one's the accompaniment pattern, which is your left hand, learn that one, and you're gonna wanna learn your right hand too, but make sure you really have that accompaniment pattern drilled in so you don't have to think about it. So take your left hand, practice it, then alternate, take your right hand, practice it, and that way your left hand can rest while your right hand is practicing, and then go back to left hand and keep alternating until you have both of them good hands separate. And don't go on to that next step until you really have it solidly hands separately. All right, on to rule number 3, which is always play expressively. Now the whole reason you're learning all these notes, all these chords, all these rhythms is so you can express an emotion to somebody. And expressing emotion is a skill. I used to think it was just something, some people just have it inside them. They're an emotional person. But honestly, everybody has emotions, and there's a skill in being able to transfer that emotion to something you're feeling, into music, into something in the air that you can transfer to other people. And like any other skill, it comes with practice. So no matter what you're practicing, even if you're practicing scales, the most dry, boring drill you can, put some emotion into it. Put some crescendos and decrescendos and speed it up and slow it down and just put as much heart into it as you can. And the other reason you want to practice emotionally is because your brain remembers emotional events more than it remembers just mundane tasks of the day. Think of anything you remember from when you're a little kid. It's probably something super joyful or super traumatic or very stressful. It's something that is super emotional because your brain holds on to those things more than anything else. So why not use that to our advantage when we practice piano and practice everything as emotionally as possible? Think how much better you're gonna learn songs, how much faster your brain is gonna remember things. All right, that's all I got for you guys today. Remember the 3 golden rules when you're practicing: accuracy over speed, play hands separately first, and always play with emotion. Remember, at any time, if you wanna contact me and ask me anything about piano, just feel free to hit me up. I got the links all over the place. And on to the next section, we're gonna be talking about goal setting and planning. All right, that's all I got, so peace out.